Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Alyx King here. Today is Wednesday, March the 6th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is at 12 midnight, but wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And Kelly Pretty is going to be joining us in just a moment or two, so till she gets here, we'll just carry on without her, which we are quite capable of doing. She sent me a note saying, "Oh crap! I thought it was at 1:30. I forgot, but she's coming." Which happens. Stuff like that happens. That's okay. But how you doing, Alyx?
At the top of the hour.
Yeah. It's always where it is. But she's only been doing it with it for a few months or a few weeks rather. So she still has to get into the habit, right? It takes a little while.
Yep.
Well, that's okay. So how are you doing? I hope you are doing well this morning. You told me before the podcast that you were glad you had an alarm this morning, but you look like you're awake, so that's good.
Well, I went to bed at 6 a.m. And
well, no wonder.
And then my usual nurse who knows I podcast on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, she usually comes around 10. Mm-hmm. But I guess she called in sick, so some new nurse came today at 6:30, and I was quite upset.
Yeah, I can. Well, half-hour sleep, I would be upset too. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, So because I was just getting into the room, and then I swear, like 20 minutes later, my alarm went off, and I was like, "Oh, son of a biscuit."
In that case, we are very grateful that you decided to join us anyway with your happy, smiling face. So thank you very much for that.
No problem.
And I'm actually going to make the job easier for you today because normally we've been doing kind of like round robin where we all come up with questions to ask and so forth. But I was digging into today's, I guess you can't call them archives, so they're the current questions that are being raised on the different groups today. And I just copied and pasted them into a text document. So that gives us a bunch of questions to ask. So you don't even have to come up with any questions today if you don't want to.
Okay, cool beans.
Yeah, that way you can just kind of settle back and be relaxed and, be who you are with half an hour of sleep.
Which is who I am all the time. It doesn't matter. Just a little bit more yawning. You go on the least amount of sleep of anybody that I can think of. Because I remember my sister went through a sleepless period that ultimately got resolved through some nutritional changes. But she wasn't just zombified. She was almost psychotic. I mean, it was kind of rough for her. So the fact that you can go through... In the beginning, I did go through that where I was...
Did you?
Was a bit... Yeah, I was like... I don't know, hearing voices and stuff, I was like, this isn't okay.
No, it's not. No. Well, I'm glad that you were able to get around that. I mean, I'm amazed that you got around it and still go with such short sleep, but I guess it can be done, apparently. I had no idea that was possible.
I am part of a very special group called the Sleepless Elite.
Sleepless Elite. Okay. Well, that's a good way to look at it. That way you don't feel like you're deprived. That way you feel like you're actually on top of things. And I see Kelly's joined us. Hey, Kelly, how you doing? You look like you're doing pretty well today.
Yeah, I am, but I'm really sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
I woke up at 5:30 this morning. I had an amazing morning. And then, when, you have no concept of time? I feel like that's what I've been like all morning.
Okay. Yeah, well, we've all been there.
I'm amazing.
Well, that means you're having a good day. That means your day is going so well that you aren't even paying attention to the clock. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
Yeah. So no, I'm doing well.
How are you?
Alyx is deprived of sleep, but you can't tell by looking at her. So we're doing well. So anyway, we're going to be doing another Q&A today, and for anyone who's listening to the live stream, feel free to join in with questions, and we'll try to incorporate them as well. Now, Kelly, I told Alyx that because she was so short on sleep, she wasn't going to have to come up with questions today. So I found some questions in some of the Law of Attraction groups on Facebook for us to discuss. But by all means, if you have any questions that you can interject as well, bring them up, and we'll include those too. And obviously, if there are any listeners who have questions who are listening to the live stream, we'll be glad to incorporate their questions as well. But this first question came from someone named Allie, and This is one that I know, Alyx, you have some direct experience with within the last 6 months or 12 months or so. So I'm going to be curious to see what your answer is. She says,
"Ooh,
okay, so after a week of being ghosted, I just want some closure that it is over. Should I message him?" That's her question. How do you answer her?
No. You do not message him.
How did I know that?
That makes you look so thirsty. Do not message him. Just move on. He has ghosted you. Move on to the next one. Cancel, block, delete, and move on.
See, I can always count on you to have that really strong, direct answer. Like, there's no doubt in your mind whatsoever. I love it. Yeah, okay. I could go in. Kelly, what do you think? If somebody asks you about that, what do you tell them?
Well, yeah, to be honest, I do agree with Alyx. Like, there's no point if somebody's not been in touch with you for a week. Like, I don't think I understand the closure part, but if you're we don't know the situation. So if this person's ghosted you and you've been going out with them for like 3 years, then that's a bit different. But if someone's ghosted you and you've just been on a couple of dates with them, then yeah, I would definitely not go. There's plenty of more fish in the sea and lots of people that I'm sure would love to have Ally.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, the question that is in my mind is, if he's ghosting her, why does she want to be with him?
Yeah.
Exactly, because that's the type of precedent you're setting for the relationship. Like, you're not a priority, so keep it moving.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess she's like not said she wants to be with him as such. She's saying she wants closure.
Well, this is true. This is true. Closure is one of those kind of a slippery concept. It's a slippery concept because what exactly does she mean by the closure? I mean, I think we all pretty much agreed, unless it's somebody who she's been in a relationship for years and years and years, it's not like she's got this huge amount of time invested in him and all of a sudden it's being ripped away from her. So the closure part is what? What's that for? I mean... Well,
we want to know what we did wrong so we don't do it wrong again. If we were the problem. Oh, thank you. I've just been through this so many times.
And I think that puts your finger on it right there. The idea that you did something wrong when in fact you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it's not like you were... No,
it's most likely him that's the issue.
Yeah. I mean, just... It's kind of like if somebody doesn't like me, that means I did something wrong.
Not necessarily.
That concept, when you state it that clearly, it's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. So.
It's a natural reaction, though. Like, I work with so many women that they instantly go to, like, what's wrong with me, not what's wrong with that other person. And also, when they're searching for somebody and when they're dating, they also ask questions like, am I good enough for them? Rather than, are they good enough for me? And that simple switch is the difference between love of self and not loving yourself.
Yes. So, looking at it from that perspective, what can we suggest to somebody like Ally, who perhaps needs to do a little bit more to love herself and be more respectful of herself so that she doesn't get herself into a little fix like this where she feels like it was her fault that he left?
Affirmations are huge. So if anyone's struggling with self-love, and actually it's not even people that are struggling with self-love, like Walt, you spoke about this the other week. Like, I actually had a bit of like a self-love breakdown on Saturday, and it was because I stopped my self-love routine because I thought, oh, I've got to a certain stage, it's totally fine, I don't need to do it anymore. And I haven't done much in terms of affirmations for a few months, and it seriously affects your body. So like having self-love affirmations like, whatever it is that resonates for you. But like for women, a lot of the time, things like I am worthy of love, or I am beautiful, or I am whatever it is that you're struggling with. Like if you're struggling with feeling that you're not successful, telling yourself that you're successful out loud in the mirror is really, really powerful, because you're basically retraining your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And then that becomes your truth over time, the more you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, the mirror exercise is the way I do that most frequently. Although Steve Rowell gave me a list of various kinds of affirmative type practices you can do, and I'm starting to work through that list. I'm thinking, I wonder how many of these I can get done every day, so I can really build myself up. But it's quite a list. It's like there's like I don't know, a dozen items to do in that list. So this could take me a while to get it up to speed. But okay.
Amazing.
So those are good. Now there was another person, I didn't get this person's name, but this is something you see occasionally, and I'm just curious to see what kind of answers you guys give to this. The person was requesting law of attraction stories so that he or she could kind of build up their belief in the law of attraction. You see something like that?
I saw that one.
Did you see that one? Yeah. How do you guys react to that kind of thing?
I mean, I don't know. That's a weird one.
I have loads of stories.
Okay.
Like, I guess none of us would be doing this if we didn't have evidence that it worked.
True. Yep.
So, yeah, like I manifested my soulmate after like 10 years of disastrous relationships. That's the big one for me. Mm-hmm. I've manifested my dream car, £20,000 less than any other car on the market.
Woo!
That was a good one. Yeah, I manifested selling my property for £23,000 more than all of the properties around me that were 2-bedroom places, and mine was a 1-bed. Like, it's like insane stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Manifested a massive job promotion when I didn't actually hit the targets. Loads of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are good. Those are all really good. The answer I gave to this person was, look around you in the room. Everything there you manifested. And my point was to remind people, we tend to think of this stuff as being like magic wand material, like something mysteriously manifested out of thin air. But literally everything in our lives we manifested one way or another. It's just a question of shifting our perception so that we understand that. I mean, not that I don't understand their point of view. You know, I need some evidence that all this stuff works. In fact, there's a group of us, including many of the co-hosts of the show, who put together a book last year of stories just on this exact topic. But I really think the best thing to do is to recognize everything in our life was manifested, and that's hard. Right. That's kind of a hard thing, because you know it seems impossible to us. Well, I went out and bought this pen. How did I manifest that? But we did. You know, and that's where it takes a little, you know, kind of doing the mind game to realize everything is a manifestation that comes out of our thoughts and feelings. It takes some doing to get there. I mean, do you find that, Kelly? Do you find that that's a kind of a tough concept, that everything that comes into our life is manifested?
I believe it. I feel like when you're in a place of despair and confusion and doubt, and maybe things aren't going well, it's really hard to hear that. And it's,
that's true.
It's not always easy to take responsibility and accountability for that. And also, there is kind of a caveat to that as well, I think, because ultimately there's things in your life that are going to happen that you haven't thought about. You haven't wished that would happen, and haven't worried about that happening. Like, I want to be careful about the examples I give, but there was an example last week about the girl that lives in an area where there's war, for instance. Like, she hasn't manifested that. You know, that's like, well, I believe that's the universe has given her that lesson and that path for a reason, and only in time will she understand why. So is how we deal with those situations in terms of our thought processes that will determine what happens after that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's not like every single thing in our lives we thought about, okay, I need to manifest a calculator. I need to manifest a notebook. I need to manifest a table. I need to manifest a chair. We don't think about things like that. We don't think about, I have to bring all these things into my life. And we don't need to think about manifesting traffic into our life or, political situations or news. Or we don't don't have to focus on all of those in order for them to come into our lives.
Right.
I mean, a lot of it happens indirectly. As an example, for instance, I know of one person who was a chronic complainer, and he complained. Literally, there wasn't anything he couldn't complain about. He went through his entire day complaining, and all these different situations would come into his life where it would give him more to complain about. And a lot of them were pretty unpleasant situations. I mean, they included family splitting up, and I think there was a drug or an alcohol addiction that was involved. And so, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was coming into it. And it took him a long time through some help. It was actually somebody who was working with one of the co-hosts that I have. So I don't know him personally. I just know about him. But it took a lot of working with this coach to realize that his mindset was setting himself up for this kind of thing. And the moment that he changed that mindset, he was going to get a different experience. And kind of like the person who was asking about the law of attraction stories, he didn't have the evidence in his own conscious mind. From his perspective, he didn't see the connection going on. And if I remember correctly, the way the story was told to me, he actually had to kind of go with what the coach was saying for a bit. Just try changing your mindset, stop focusing on all the negatives and start focusing on positives and live with that for a while to start seeing different results. And then he began to realize, there was all this stuff that was coming in because I was constantly complaining about everything. And the moment I stopped complaining, it all started to slow down.
So, that's a good example.
Yeah. It's amazing how we could attract stuff without realizing we're attracting it.
That happened to me.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I was working at a beauty supply store long time ago. This is before I even knew about the law of attraction. And I would walk through the store at the beginning of the day and, straighten up the shelves and what have you. And I would notice a product that I hadn't seen before. And I'm like, oh, what does this do? And I'd read up on it, read the back of the package and everything else. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's interesting. Doesn't help me with my hair, but whatever. And then later on in the day, someone would come in and be asking me questions. And I'm like, I have the perfect product for you. So I was pre-manifesting things for other people before they even came in, and it made me a good salesperson because I knew exactly what they needed, and
So it's not that you were doing it for them; you were attracting stuff in so they'd be ready when they asked for it. Like you were anticipating their needs, so to speak.
Exactly.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's a good skill to have. That's a skill that makes you a valuable employee.
It was a good skill. Yeah.
That's really good.
I never told anyone my secret, but they were like, how do you know all the products? And I was like, I don't.
That's funny. Here's another one from Stanley. And let me just make sure we don't have any live stream questions. No, not so far. Stanley asked a rather involved question. And it includes an acronym that I had never heard before. I'm hoping, Alyx, maybe you know this particular acronym. But anyway, it says, my family is giving me a hard time. I am starting in spite of them because they have unrealistic expectations. I'm not sure what that means. They bring me down. I'm 37 with 2 BAS. I don't know what BAS is. Had a job in January, but I quit because it wasn't for me. One part wants to fight them, another wants me to just say, frig them and disappear. Is there a way I can speed up my results of having a job? I swear I can't talk to them anymore. I don't want to talk to them anymore because they bring me down.
Okay, well, BAS stands for Bachelor of Science.
As opposed to BS. Got it. Okay.
Right.
Hey, I'm a pre-our generation. For us, that was just a BS. Yeah, that's all it was.
BS can take on so many forms these days, so you got to be careful where you use it.
Very good point.
Because clearly he's going through BS with, so yeah.
This is true.
I would let Kelly answer that one first.
Okay, we'll go to the life coach. What do you think, Kelly? Stanley's dealing with a lot of stuff there. How do you help him?
It's a really difficult one because our family is often reflecting back to us parts of ourselves that we need to work on. So, I believe that I think we choose our parents and that they trigger us in certain ways that help us to grow spiritually if we choose to do that. And when we don't choose to try and look within and see where we can grow, that's when the kind of the disconnect happens more and more and more, if that makes sense. So, to give you an example, my mother and I's relationship has been probably in the last, as I've become more into the law of attraction, has become more challenging. And that's because I realize more about myself. It's because I've started to look at my childhood more and also just looking at the dynamics and things like that. However, because I was able to look at, hold on, what am I bringing to the table here? What stories am I telling myself about my relationship with my family? I was able to kind of heal that. And now we get on really, really well. But I was kind of telling myself that story over and over. Sorry. There's a lot of wind outside, which is scaring my puppy. So it's, I'm not sure if that answers your question. I feel like my puppy interrupted me, but
you're doing very well though.
Stories, that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. I'm reminded of something that Louise taught me about. Louise, my wife, was a psychotherapist for about 10 years. She's retired from that. But she told me about a technique that she used to use, particularly with people who were in struggles with other people in their lives, often family members, could have been employers or co-workers or whatever, but struggles where there were fights going on and arguing and all that kind of thing.
Sorry.
That's okay. As with most therapists, she had an office with a couch and comfortable chairs and so forth, so they could sit and talk comfortably. And she picked up one of the throw pillows from the couch and said, "Okay, are you ready for this?" and tossed the pillow to her client, and her client caught it. And then she says, "Okay, now toss it back to me." So her client tossed it back. Louise caught it. She says, "Okay, here we go again." Tossed the pillow to her. Her client caught the pillow. And Louise says, "Now toss it back." The client tossed it back, and this time Louise let it fall to the floor. And she said, "My point in showing you that is the game only works as long as we both participate. The moment I decide not to participate anymore, the game ends." And the same thing is true with fights. Fights only work as long as you decide to participate in them. The moment that you stop participating in the fight ends. And that little exercise made a huge impact on so many clients who realized they were enabling the fight, and they didn't know it. They thought the fight was all the other person's fault. They didn't realize, hey, I'm part of this too. And the moment that we realize that in a real, grounded, deep down way, it becomes so much easier to say, you know what, I'm just not going to participate in the fight anymore. I'm just going to change the subject. I'm going to do anything else except participate in that fight. And it makes a huge difference in people's lives when they start doing that. Now, will that solve the problem of him not having a job and his family being mad at him? It won't solve it, but it'll sure cut down on the fights. And that alone is huge in terms of changing your mindset. So just thought I'd share that little story.
That's really good.
Yeah, I love that technique.
Agreed.
I remember the first time she told me that when I said, "Oh, that's brilliant." I really like that one.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
And also, do you mind that I just say something else as well,
sure.
if that's
Go ahead.
okay?
Yeah.
Like, thinking about how does he feel in himself by the fact that these things aren't fitting together in his life right now? Because often people will actually just be a projection of our own insecurities. So the people around us, if we're in our power and if we're feeling really, our beliefs are that, that say there's worry around that for him, people around him are going to project that back to him. So his family are going to question him lots. His family are going to say things like, oh, are you sure you're going to get a job? When are you going to get a job? Why have you not got a job yet? Because you're actually feeling that resistance inside yourself. You're feeling that shame. You're feeling that. And I don't know that for sure, but it's very, very likely, because what the universe does is just projects back to us our own beliefs, our own belief system. So you want to probably have a look at what are my beliefs right now around self. And I'll often take clients through, like, particularly women that are maybe going into an environment with family and they're in their like late 30s. They still haven't settled down. They still not had kids, and their family's constantly in their ear. Why have you not met anybody yet? Why have you not met anybody yet? And if they actually prepare themselves, work on their beliefs, and almost have like a power pose and an actual script when they go into these situations with their family, because they're in their power and they're feeling really confident about their own beliefs and their own story, you'll notice that, well, they notice that when they go in with that mindset, rather than the mindset of worry and, oh my gosh, I can't be bothered with this, it's going to be so difficult, it's a completely different conversation that they have with their family when they go in like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right, because that mindset that we bring in drives it in ways that we don't even realize, do we?
Yeah, it's that kind of shame, like, I know they're going to ask me questions. I don't want to have to deal with those questions. Whereas if we can shift that to an empowered state and an empowered story, is a really different, they can sense the energy shift. Your family can actually sense that confidence in self. So they'll be much less likely to ask you questions that make you feel uncomfortable. But even if they do ask you questions that make you uncomfortable, you'll be much more confident in the answers that you're given.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, too, when there's a group of people, in this case a family, and this often is true with families, when there's a group of people and one of the persons in that group changes their behavior, changes their energy, everybody else not only notices, they try to understand what just happened.
Yeah.
On some subconscious level, or sometimes on a conscious level. And sometimes they probe it. Sometimes they'll test the limits to see, oh, what just happened here? How far can this go? That kind of thing. But it always changes the dynamic. When the dynamic changes, there may still be some struggle going on, but it's a different kind of struggle. And it has a different tone to it, has a different feel to it. And it's usually a lot more calm, a lot more positive than what was going on before, so that it's easier to handle. Not always, but most often. That's what I've noticed with my own family in the past, that one person just changes their vibration, as we would say in law of attraction circles, and everybody notices, like, what just happened? Did they change in some way?
Something shifted.
Something shifted, absolutely. Nasha asked an interesting question, talking about famous people. She reminded me of a conversation we had about Kylie Jenner, and of course the
you had a conversation about Kylie Jenner without me.
I know it seems impossible, doesn't it? But yeah, it actually happened.
Oh, I'm so mad.
Yeah. Well, it was a short conversation because you weren't there, so we still need your
obviously
input. Yeah. But she said Kylie Jenner made it in 10 years to a self-made billionaire. She's on the Forbes list, and she said she left Bill Gates behind. I'm not sure if that's actually true because Bill Gates is pretty wealthy, but she points out she's only 21 years old, and she cited that as like this really exciting example of what happens with personal mindset. Now, to be perfectly frank, Kylie Jenner also has the tremendous benefit of being part of that Kardashian family, that family that's tied to the guy who used to be known as Bruce Jenner, who was a fairly famous guy, and that's pretty much what pulled the whole Kardashian family to the fore. and then they just took it the rest of the way with all of their antics, shall we say, their various behavioral patterns that endeared them to so many millions of people. Well, so that gives you an advantage, and it's kind of a strange advantage they have, because they have a lot of following, a lot of people are really interested in them, but the thing I've noticed about them is that there is a lot of dysfunctionality there too, and they just kind of they kind of leave it all hanging out, you know. They don't really hide any of it. And the interesting part is that they've kind of ridden that dysfunctionality to fame. And I'm not quite sure what to make of that. I mean, Louise has her comments on that. But, I mean, Alyx, what do you think of that? Why do you think that is such a popularity-making thing? And to what degree do you think that's helped Kylie to achieve her goal?
Okay, first I want to say the Kardashians are popular because, like I was telling you the other day, like, everybody needs to know what happened in that car crash. Like, everybody's rubbernecking, and they need to know, oh, what happened? Let me see what happened. So then that's what they tune in for, to see what happened. And then they get caught up in the whole storyline, and because they drag it out, you know, episode by episode. So they make you watch it. Because I'm a huge Kardashian fan, so I can't even lie. I watch the show. I'm religious with it.
You're a rubbernecker.
I'm a definite rubbernecker. Like, I watch reality shows like it's a religion. I have a problem. But as far as Kylie Jenner goes, that's going to go back to the question that you raised earlier with the guy who's having trouble with his family. She was the one in the family who didn't really have any guidance. She didn't really know what she wanted to do. There were avenues for her, like she could have modeled with her sister, but she wasn't really into it. She could have done this with her other sister, but she wasn't really into it. So she took a hobby of hers, which is doing makeup, and decided to create a job out of makeup. And now she has her own makeup line, and she made her own way. And now her sisters are trying to piggyback on her and say, oh, can I have a lipstick named after me? You know, try to get in on that. And that's how she made her billions.
Yeah, that's true. Kelly, do you guys follow the Kardashians at all over there in England? I'm not sure how much popularity they have there.
Yeah, I mean, they're popular. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of them, but yeah, I think that with the platform that they have, they could be a better role model to particularly women in society, but that's just my opinion. You know, they're obviously very clever for making the money that they've made, but I would question whether they're truly happy from the little amount that I've seen in what they do and how they go about it. But yeah, I don't have a huge knowledge about them. I don't follow them or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I don't really follow them. The only reason I know about them at all is because Louise has watched some of their stuff, and not that much at that, but you know, just enough that I'm aware, like, oh yeah, okay, Kardashians, I know who they are.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, I don't understand so much why it is that people watch, you know, like you say, they rubberneck. They want to look at what happened in the car crash. Like, if I'm driving by on the highway, I'm one of the people who actually wants to get past where the car crash is. But everybody else doesn't seem to want to do that. So I don't really understand that psychology. You know, why do you want to see a car crash?
It's partly sadism, and it's partly, are they okay? And then, so it's those two mixed together. You know, so it's like, do I want to see the massacre? Let's see how bad the car got crashed up, and are the people alive?
I mean, it's a common thing. I mean, people who go to NASCAR races very often go because of the car crashes, you know, and it's another one of those things I just never really, it just doesn't appeal to me. I guess that's why I don't really understand it. But certainly there are millions of people who like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I live for the drama.
I guess, yeah.
On my TV.
On TV, right. At a distance where you don't have to deal with it directly.
At a distance, at an arm's length away. I don't live for the drama in my life. No.
Yeah. Well, that raises an interesting question. How do you separate the two? And that is something that people are able to do. The classic example being somebody who likes to go to horror films. You know, they don't actually go to the horror film thinking that they're actually experiencing a horrible situation that's going to be part of their life. They draw kind of like a little boundary that says, this is just us watching this situation, and we can scream and get all excited about it. But after the film was over, that's just that isn't actually real, that kind of a thing. Again, not a mindset I've ever had, but at least I can understand that one, and I guess it kind of applies to what we're talking about here too.
Well, it's entertainment. It's just it's on your TV. Like it's not real. I mean, it is real as a reality show, but it's not in your real life. So you can create a boundary between the two and just realize like you don't have to take on their drama as your situation. Some people do. Some people become obsessed with certain celebrities and they're like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out because Kim, lost her lip kit and, the world is going to end. And, it happens. People do not know how to separate themselves from the situation. And I think that's a hard thing to do.
Plus, I've never really understood. I mean, I kind of do because, we do a podcast and we talk about stuff from our own lives. So in that sense, I understand it. But they live their entire life out in front of the public eye. Every uncomfortable situation, whether they want to play it out or not, they play it out on camera for millions of people to see. And that's a lot. I mean, I can hardly imagine that.
It takes a certain type of person.
Well, when this show gets popular enough, I'm asking myself, how far would I go? And you know what? I'd probably actually scale it back a little bit in terms of how much I share about what's going on in my own life, just because, some of it is private. It's me. It's my wife. It's our little thing. It's not for public consumption necessarily. But
see, I'm the opposite.
You're the opposite on that.
I feel like the more personal you get, the more people connect with you.
Well, this is true. Yeah, I mean, logically, I know that. I just mean emotionally, I'm not sure I really want that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like sharing the stuff that is positive or that has some sort of positive learning thing out of it. But just airing the dirty laundry for the sake of airing the dirty laundry, that's just ugh.
No, I wouldn't do any of that. No.
But that's what they do. I mean, every little thing that goes wrong. In fact, it's almost like the filmmakers go out of their way to film all of the things that go wrong and then air all of them. Usually without resolution.
Yes and no, because we didn't really clearly get the whole story about Kim's robbery in France.
Okay.
Because the cameras she was home alone and the cameras weren't there.
So an opportunity lost. But let's say the cameras had been there. Do you think that Kim would have stopped that?
Well, then hopefully there would have been big burly men besides her security to help her not get robbed.
Well, this is true. Yes, that is true. Yeah. So I guess there is that side of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never totally understood that mentality that says I want to have everything that's going on in my life hanging out there. I mean, Kelly, you're the one who's got more of a psychology background. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't really say psychology background, but yeah, like, wow, this is interesting territory for me because I find it difficult to place of love when it comes to those behaviors. Like, I do find it quite narcissistic, and also that the ego has definitely taken a hold of that family, and I think that it's like there's a lot of healing that needs done. A lot. And with a platform like that, the platform that they have and the power that they have, I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous for women. I think it's dangerous for young females to see that as being a role model in society. And they're obviously, they know that that's the way that they're going to make money, so they don't mind having everything displayed out there, warts and all. But I just think that it needs to be done with more control around what should and shouldn't be shown.
Such as, I mean, what kind of control are you talking about?
I don't watch enough of it to really know, but I mean, I saw something on my Instagram the other day that was Kim Kardashian. I don't know why it popped up as something I might be interested in, but, you know, she had on this dress where literally it was like her boobs, just her boobs out with like maybe a tiny bit of like tape over her boobs. And I just feel like as a mother that's in her like mid-30s, it's not a very good role model to women and females in society. Like, I think we should be shown as being worth more than our bodies. I don't think that we are only worth what we look like. I think that there's so much more to a woman than just the way they look. And I think that that's what the Kardashians promote. And I fundamentally don't agree with it. And I think it creates anxiety in young women and older women. And I think it creates eating disorders. It creates a whole lot of toxic feelings towards self. And that's why I don't agree with their messaging.
The thing that I wish...
Sorry.
No, I think you're quite fair. I think you're hitting it. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I just wanted to add that I wish some of these shows would take some time to show the positive. Because I don't care who you are. Even the Kardashians have some positive, but they certainly don't emphasize it. They kind of like do it like the newscasts do it. The newscast, if it's an hour-long newscast, will show you 58 minutes of crime, devastation, anger, frustration, horror, and then one little 60-second clip about something that was nice. Like that, which
they have plenty of episodes where they're doing. I'll give you an example. I don't remember her name, but there was this woman who was in jail for 20 years. The woman that Trump just pardoned. And she was in jail for 20 years for like a first offense drug charge that should have only gotten her like 2 years, if anything. And she was still in jail, and Kim Kardashian saw her story and was like, we got to get her out of jail. So she got her lawyers together with the person's lawyers, and they ended up going to Washington, and they showed the whole thing, going to Washington, meeting with Trump, talking about it, and getting the lady pardoned. And then that started the whole new bill about, I forget what the bill is called, but it's First Timers Act or something like that. Something along those lines. And that started that whole thing. So, you know, there's positive things like that. There's, you know, births of babies, because Lord knows there's a lot of babies in that family.
This is true.
So there's lots of positive stuff on that show. It's not all negative. And they do get to talk about the fact that they're posing like that on Instagram. Like, okay, you're a grown woman with how many kids? You shouldn't be, you know, showing your bare ass on Instagram, you know. And they're like, yeah, good point. I should take it down. Or, yeah, but if I work this hard to look good, then I should, you know, show it off. So there's...
Have they worked hard to look good, though?
Yes, they actually, they work out on the show. I don't know if they actually work out after the show, but yeah. None of them are, except for Kylie, I think. Kylie's the only one who's had work done. And she's only had her lips done.
That is not true!
I swear.
No.
I swear. Especially if you look at Chloe. They used to call her the fat one. And if you look at her now she's got her own show called Body by Chloe. And she's showing people how to, you know, live a healthier lifestyle and work out and eat right and all that type of stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I probably don't know enough about them. From the outside, it doesn't look like they haven't had any work done, but maybe they haven't.
No, I totally get what you're saying. Coming from the outside looking in, it's not a pretty picture.
Well, let's just say Photoshop is a wonderful thing. Let's just leave it at that.
Nobody Photoshops anymore. We use filters.
Yeah, well, it's the same concept. It doesn't matter. It's just a generic term for it.
I don't use filters because it's too much work and it looks so fake. It's so stupid. I hate it.
But the thing that I noticed, Alex, and I thought you gave some good examples there, except for the babies part, and even that has a little bit of it. All of the good stories, the positive stories, are drama stories. Mm-hmm. And I know that's what draws people in. People, like you said, you love the drama. People love the drama. But there's a piece of me that says, why not actually find ways to enjoy the non-dramatic positives in life? Because we tend to skip them.
That's not how Americans are built.
Not just Americans; it's around the world. I mean, it's almost a universal thing. But you know, why not actually just appreciate the little things in life? And that's
sometimes you want to look at the TV and say, "Well, at least my life isn't that bad today."
and that's it. That's exactly it right there. That's the thing that mm-hmm. I look at that and I say, wow, we're missing something. We're overlooking a stockpile of value just by limiting mm-hmm. ourselves to, well, I can only look at it if it makes me feel better by comparison. That's like the highest we can rise up. I'm thinking, boy, mm-hmm. we can rise up a whole lot better than that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I imagine if all those viewers, now, obviously, they're making choices based on what they feel is best for them, what they feel is going to make them happy, and so on and so forth.
Right.
I get that, and I'm totally in favor of that. All I'm wondering is, what would happen if they were to actually expand their choices and say, you know what? I'm not just going to look at the dramatic stuff. I'm going to look at the stuff that's non-dramatic, that's positive, and I'm going to mm-hmm. take some interest in it. How would it affect their lives for the better? I mean, that's what I keep thinking about. I keep thinking we have millions, billions of people who pay attention to this kind of thing and who make it their dominant thought process. All they have to do is expand that envelope a bit and look beyond that and say, you know what, there's a whole lot of good things going on in life, and mm-hmm. in the process, change their whole mindset. So it isn't so much that I object to it, it's more that I just wish that people would look beyond.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. That's kind of one of the reasons that I do the podcast and bring you guys mm-hmm. into the podcast. I'm trying to expand the envelope. I'm trying to say, hey, there's more to life than the Kardashians. There's more to... There's nothing
that should be the name of our show. That'll go viral.
There's more to life than
the Kardashians.
That'd be an interesting name for a show.
When I first started workshops, I started just doing self-love when I still worked in corporate. And my actual workshop was called Loving Yourself in a Kardashian Culture.
Oh, no kidding.
Nice.
Good title. How'd it go over?
Yeah, really well. I had a lot of women come to them, and then I decided to move into the love stuff. But yeah, I think that you're spot on. Like, we can get drowned by all of the kind of mass media stuff. And it's about how do you choose to spend your day? What things are you going to focus on that are going to make you feel better? Because every time I watch like trash TV, to be honest, like I don't feel better for it. And I do watch some trash TV. But it's like my guilty pleasure. And then really like afterwards, I don't feel better. So I try, and I don't always manage this, but I do try and use my time to focus on more like positive stuff rather than the people arguing on TV. But it's not always easy because it is a bit of a fix sometimes as well.
Nasha's been commenting up a storm, and she wants us to pay attention to what she's been commenting on. And I'm not sure I could even summarize all of it. I've been looking for questions. I see one question that you posted, Nasha, so I'll bring that one up. Regarding the Kardashians and similar kinds of shows, why do people follow it so religiously? That's what she's asking. Why does that happen?
Because you have to know what's going to happen next. It's like when you watch a movie and you want to, and there's a cliffhanger. That's how they get you with the cliffhangers.
This is true.
You have to know what's going to happen next. You have to know how it ends.
Okay, that's a good explanation. Kelly, anything else that we can add to that?
Well, it's like an addiction, isn't it?
Yes,
it's
it is.
Basically an addiction. You become obsessed with, like, the feeling and the rush of, like, seeing into someone else's life. Mm-hmm. And it might be that you watch because you like Alyx said, you think, well, at least my life's not as difficult as that. Or it might be that you watch it wishing that that was your life, which I think a lot of people that watch the Kardashians do feel like that. They want to be the Kardashians. That's why a lot of women have changed their whole face and wear contouring and all that sort of stuff because they want to be the Kardashians. And it's like, yeah, I think it's an obsession and not a very healthy one depending on how you do it. But yeah, most of the time I don't think it's that healthy.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I agree.
There was another Facebook question that I wanted to bring in here. This is posted by somebody named Jess. Jess was asking for help. She says her husband wants to leave and she can't bear it because of their girls and also because he is her soulmate. Is there anything she can do to make him stay and rethink the consequences of separating? She says she's trying to stay positive, but it hurts. Now that's a completely different animal from a Kardashian animal, but it's one that, and it's a tough one, and it's one that people deal with more regularly than perhaps we recognize and imagine. And I imagine that Kelly, you've had people bring you questions like that when somebody has that kind of a really tough situation. How do you advise them?
People tend to come to me when they're single, I would say. Like they've kind of maybe like decided to part ways with somebody rather than in amongst that place, because I feel like that's a place where only you can find answers out for yourself, if that makes sense. Like it's not something that necessarily we can advise you on. That's just my opinion. But one thing I would say is like, how is it making you feel? Like, how does he make you feel? Are you only wanting to stay with him because of the girls? Because actually, and it's really difficult, right? Because we're speculating. We don't actually know what their relationship's like. We have a very, very small snippet. So if I'm wrong and I'm making assumptions here that are completely incorrect, please forgive me. But like, if you're staying with him or you want to stay with him because you're worried about your girls, it's a hell of a lot worse for you to stay in a relationship that isn't a happy one, because that's much worse for your children in the long term. So it's just about working out, like, why is it that I want to stay with him, and actually probably removing the children out of the equation when it comes to it and thinking about self, because your children are going to be okay either way. Like, children can adapt. Children are, amazing at dealing with difficult situations because they're so, they don't often understand. And my parents split up when I was like a teenager, and to be honest, I wish they did it before because they weren't happy, and that actually created more problems for me long term. So it's about like working out, how do I actually feel, and does he make me feel good? Does he love me in the way in which I would like? And if the answer is no to that, then you have to reconsider why you're holding on to that relationship. Because a lot of the time we hold on to relationships because we feel like it's a failure. And relationships splitting up is never a failure. It's always so that we can grow and we can look at the lessons that we've learned with that person. But just sometimes it isn't meant to be, and there's somebody out there who's better for you. But it's something that is out of our control. We can't manipulate someone to stay with us by using the law of attraction.
Right.
Yeah, it's very true.
Well, answer the question?
I think it's a good answer. The phrase that stuck out to me in her question was that she wanted him to rethink the consequences of separating. And the reason that stuck out for me is I'm wondering if she needs to rethink the consequences of not separating. I'm thinking of the old cliche, it's better to come from a broken home than to live in one. And it's true.
Yes. So true.
Living in a broken home is rough. I mean, it's certainly rough to have come from one, but at least you have an end to the day-to-day pain. Whereas when you live in one, the day-to-day pain goes on and on and on and on. At some point you have to wonder, well, how much pain is enough? How much should you have to put up with? because it's not like I think what people do is, and I suspect Jess may be doing this too. I think we assume that if we can find some way to stay together, everything will smooth out, which is not necessarily true. But I think it's what the hope is, right? The idea that, well, if he and I can just find some way to stay together, everything will smooth out and everything will be normal again. And it's not, when you state it that baldly, it's obviously not a valid conclusion to draw. But I think that's what goes on behind the scenes, subconsciously. And we're hoping that if we can just find some way to hold this together, everything will smooth itself out. And it's understandable. I mean, of course she wants that. Who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't want everything to smooth out? It's just that the approach doesn't necessarily work the way she thinks it does.
Yeah, totally. And also, like, that's such a valid point, Walt, because the thing is, it might be that it is possible to reconcile, but it also really depends on the situation. Like, to give you an example, I had a client who was married for a really long time and her partner cheated on her, and she wanted him to stay with her, and he waited for him to make a decision, and eventually he came back to her and said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm going to leave you. I'm in love with this other person." And literally, we're like 20 years down the line, and that woman still hasn't forgiven herself for the fact that she didn't walk away after he cheated on her.
Wow, yeah.
So it's like, it depends on the situation, but just like really thinking about like self and the decisions that you make now could affect how you feel in 10 years, 20 years time. Always like think about what is the most loving thing I can do for myself now.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Well, it also leads into the next question that I found. The next one was a real short one from Maggie. She says, "Hey, do you have some tips on letting go and how to detach?" And this is a very clear case of what we just talked about with Jess. That's somebody who's needing to figure out, assuming that it's really best for me to move on. How do I detach? Especially with somebody who's been in a relationship that long. That's quite a task.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, I think that it's about trusting in something bigger than yourself and looking at your life and being really honest with yourself. Is this making me happy? Is this like, a relationship that I think is making me be the best version of myself that I can be? Because if it's not, then that would suggest that there's somebody out there that could be someone that would help you become the best version that you can be. Because ultimately we're with people and they shouldn't drag us down and they shouldn't make us feel rubbish about ourselves and all those things. So if we feel like that on a day-to-day basis, it actually really, really affects our confidence. So it's about looking at like, how do I feel about that? And then once you've made a decision, trusting in the universe, trusting in the highest good, and then knowing that somebody better, that's a better fit for you is going to come along, and just surrendering to the universe and knowing that at the right time, in the future is going to be well worth it when you look back.
That's not easy to do, especially when you're in the middle of that kind of pain, is it?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest praying. Like, for me, that's a really big thing that works well. Like, just asking for help, asking for guidance, and actually saying out loud, I surrender, because you'll notice that little things will happen in your life. You'll get given a book, or you'll hear some audio, and it will just keep you on track. It will keep you on the right path. But you're right, it's not an easy thing to do. But it's about trying to kind of remove yourself from the human part of yourself, if that makes sense. You're almost wanting to get yourself into a situation where you're in your higher self place, looking down on yourself, saying, you know what, this person's really struggling right now, and that's okay, but in the future, it's all going to happen for a good reason, and telling yourself those things.
Yeah, good points all the way around. Well, this has been good conversation. Sadly, the hour is coming to a close, but before we sign off, first, Kelly, how does somebody reach out to you as a life coach if they're looking for some personal help? Because sometimes that does help.
Yeah, sure. So you can reach out to me on Instagram, my @Kelly_pretty, or you can catch me on Facebook. Just literally add me and send me a message, or my website is www.kellypretty.me, and you can fill in like a application form there.
Very good. All right. And Alyx, you were saying yesterday that there's going to be a second episode to your podcast coming out soon. That's coming out, I presume, in the next few days because of Luke Perry. Okay. So people can be looking for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know why I keep forgetting. Tell me again what the name of the podcast is.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Why don't I remember that? I don't know. Somehow
it's so catchy.
It is. It is. I've never been interested in spoilers, and I think that's probably why it's not
That's
sticking.
what it is. You're just resisting.
I just resist spoilers, but I'll make it a point to remember that. Spoiler alert. So, okay, good. So people know to catch that upcoming episode. And I also want to remind people, if you're not yet a subscriber to this podcast, please become one. If you don't see the links in the description, just go to the homepage, loatoday.net, and become a subscriber. And that way you get all the episodes coming right to your smartphone every day. And with that, I'll say thank you to our live stream listeners. Thank you to our podcast listeners as well. And thanks, Kelly and Alyx. We'll see you guys together as a team anyway a week from now. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
Hope you are too. You're welcome. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.